Sergio Perez has officially re-signed with Red Bull for the next 2 seasons, and this is really dividing opinions online. Guys, welcome back to another episode of Racing Direct. I'm your host, Kyle. It's good to be back. So yes, we did receive some news from the Red Bull camp today that they have re-signed Sergio Perez to a contract extension that will carry him through to the end of the 2026 season, which means he will be there for the new regulations. So make sure you've hit subscribe, like, comment, and share, all that jazz. Let's jump right into it. So yes, it is now official. Checo is sticking around at Oracle Red Bull Racing. He will be Max Verstappen's teammate for at least the next 2 seasons, and as I mentioned already, there are mixed feelings about this decision, but I can't say I didn't see this one coming, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So let's take a look at sort of recency bias and why people maybe didn't want Perez to re-sign with Red Bull and why they think it wasn't a very good decision for the team. He's been having some rocky results so far to start this season. Of course, if you look extremely recent, he had probably one of his worst weekends in his entire career in Monaco. Out in Q1, qualified 18th, and then didn't even make it into Casino Square after contact between Kevin Magnussen and himself, as well as Nico Hülkenberg. So after that weekend, everyone sort of thought that, look, this is probably the nail in the coffin. Perez is done at Red Bull. But then immediately after, it was announced that he was very close to signing a contract extension, and now the deal has been done. So from this side of things, there were some people who were concerned with his overall pace, especially in qualifying. His race pace has always been relatively pretty good, but now that the competitors are sort of catching up to Red Bull at the front of the pack, people are wondering how he is going to cope, and they're starting to think that he just doesn't really have the speed anymore to hang at the top of the ranks. Now, on the other side of things, and where I believe this was a good signing for Red Bull, I'm still sticking by that, and I knew this was coming. Perez is really the perfect teammate to have with Max Verstappen, and the reason being is because he doesn't really get in the way. If you go back to the Mercedes days of pretty recent with Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, you could technically say that Perez is the modern day Bottas. He's the perfect number 2 driver. He does everything the team wants him to do. He gets consistent enough results where they can still hang on to their Constructors' Championships, and he's generally close enough where he can help fend off some competitors and help Max get big results. So yes, Red Bull does not want 2 world beaters in their team. They don't want any internal turmoil between their 2 drivers. Look, we just saw a crazy mishap happen between Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly at Alpine, and it obviously led to the direct result of Esteban Ocon being dropped for the team for 2025. They don't want a scenario like that. Why change what you have when things are seemingly working out just fine? Verstappen's leading the driver's standings and Red Bull's leading the constructor's standing. You can say what you want about other teams catching up, but they still have the optimal position in both the drivers and the constructor's standings with a seriously competitive driver pairing. They don't want to change things because I believe this was sort of a safety net signing. They don't want to bring in another driver to sort of fight Max and take the battle to him and potentially try to take over the number 1 seat at some point down the line. They just want to stick to what they know works. They have the best driver in the world right now driving in what is probably still the fastest car, or maybe it's not, however you want to look at things like that. But needless to say, they have the best driver in the grid. We can leave it at that, and they have someone who supports him very well. You also have to remember that Perez is one of the most experienced drivers on the current Formula 1 grid and brings a wealth of knowledge along with him. There's so many young drivers on the grid right now, and obviously they want to compete, they want to get closer to the front, but all of that knowledge and experience that Perez has with him is only going to help him in the future and potentially developing this car into 2026. Again, we're looking at teams that are signing a mix of youth and experience because they need a competitive car right out of the gate once the new regulations come into place. And honestly, between Verstappen and Perez, Red Bull is sitting in a pretty good position to do just that. Another reason why we can look at this as sort of a safety net signing for Red Bull is because of all the off-track drama that's been going on basically since the start of the year. We know that the sort of feud has, I guess you could say, boiled over in the eyes of the media. We don't know what's still going on behind the scenes between Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and all the top brass back in Red Bull, as well as some ownership back in Thailand too. There's still quite a mess going on behind the scene with Red Bull that needs to be sorted out. They just lost their top designer in Adrian Newey, and there was even rumors that Max Verstappen could leave amidst all the craziness and the drama that's going on off track. So this is sort of weathering the storm. They don't want to make any unnecessary changes if they don't have to. The situation with Perez's pace is not super drastic just yet, and they believe that he can regain his form And once again, they do not want to bring in any new faces while they're going through all of this turmoil and they're trying to sort it out. Perez has been coping with all of this off-track drama very well, I believe. He keeps a pretty cool head on his shoulders. He doesn't really get into it too much with the media. He's hanging on very well, and they want that calmness, the normality in that team right now. So I'm sticking with what I said earlier, and basically what I've been saying for the past few months. I think this was the right move for Red Bull. I think they just need to maintain course right now, not change anything, not ruffle any feathers. They know that Perez and Verstappen, for the most part, get along. Yes, they sort of have had their differences in the past, but what they have right now is working. And you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We have to remember as well that Perez has helped his team quite a bit. Max's first championship in 2021 might not have been even possible without some of Perez's incredible defensive driving, not just in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but there were other races as well that year where he managed to hold off a charging Lewis Hamilton and really put Verstappen in a prime position to pounce in the final race of the season and get his first Drivers' World Championship and Red Bull's first Drivers' World Championship since Vettel back in 2013. So yes, he has been pivotal for this team in the past few years. You also have to remember that Red Bull was in the search for a second driver for a long time now. Albon didn't work out, Gasly didn't work out, and finally, third time's a charm with Perez. They finally got a driver who could provide some consistency, wouldn't really get in Verstappen's face too much, provided consistent results, and would fend off the fighting pack. So in this case, yes, Red Bull doesn't have a great history of loyalty with their drivers, but I think this is one where they could sort of right the ship with this decision. I do believe that this did play a bit of a factor in their choice to re-sign Perez for the next couple of years. The one thing I am a little bit surprised about, I thought it would be a one-year deal. I thought maybe they'd give him one more chance to sort of prove himself, see how it goes, and if he does really well in 2025, they'll keep him around. But they are pretty confident that Perez is going to keep on chugging and keep on giving them good results. This is why they've extended him into these new regulations. And again, like I said, with the experience, I think it's going to play a huge role in building the next Red Bull challenger once these new regs come into place. This decision is also incredibly important for the rest of the driver market too, because now we know that one of the major seats is off the table. There were so many rumors floating around about who could potentially take that seat away from Sergio Perez. Now that we know he is staying there, he's not going anywhere, he will be sticking around for the next couple seasons at least. That leaves drivers like Carlos Sainz and Yuki Tsunoda still looking for options. Of course, Tsunoda is one driver who is definitely in the running for a second Red Bull seat. It only makes sense. He's in the junior team right now. He's been there for a few years. He's been developing and improving every single season. This year, I believe I said it in a previous video, I personally believe he's been the best driver outside of the big teams. I think he's made a huge step forward in 2024. And yeah, I'm a little disappointed for him that he didn't get this seat. Again, I definitely agree with the Perez re-signing. I still believe that was the right move, but I believe at this point in time for Tsunoda, he might have to look elsewhere outside of Red Bull if he wants to get a serious shot at race wins, at podiums, and maybe even a championship down the line. And of course, Carlos Sainz, the most talked about free agent on the market right now. Where is he going to go? It's basically anybody's guess at this point. Or Aston Martin, Mercedes, Audi, we really don't know just yet. Well, I think we'll have to get into that one in another video because that is just a long topic that could go on for a long time with the remaining free agents on the market. But of course, with big news like this, I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe that Red Bull made the right decision to re-sign Perez, or do you think they should have looked for a new teammate to replace him and pair Max Verstappen in 2025? Give me those thoughts down below in the comments. Again, I remind you to hit that big, juicy subscribe button, leave those likes, share the videos. We'll see you next time on Racing Direct.